Hey Bolt fam, the energy in Los Angeles feels different right now. There's a lot happening behind the scenes and on the field, and it's not hype, it's real. We've got a key piece in this offense on the verge of returning, a medical update that can change the entire game plan, a quiet adjustment on the line that might steady the season, and a wide receiver situation that could turn into either drama or redemption under the Monday night lights. Which version of the Chargers is going to show up against the Eagles? You won't believe what we've got today, so get comfortable, hit that like button, and let's jump straight into it. To start, let's talk about something that can change the face of this offense that a lot of people are still sleeping on. This Chargers backfield has spent weeks surviving, not really playing at full strength. Even so, Kamani Vidal held things down, ran hard, protected the football, and kept the flame alive while the injuries stacked up. But now, right in the week of Monday Night Football against the Philadelphia Eagles, there's a detail that can turn surviving into imposing your will on defenses. Late in the week, reporters noticed something that might look small to the casual eye, but to anyone paying attention, it's massive. Omarion Hampton ditched the yellow non-contact jersey and showed up in blue, cleared to feel the speed and physicality of practice again. No extra protective status, no don't touch him. That usually points to one thing: he's getting close to being back on the 53, and more importantly, back to taking meaningful snaps when it matters. And just look at the timing. On the other sideline, the Eagles lose a key defensive piece specifically for this primetime matchup. Meanwhile, the Chargers' backfield starts to look deeper, more physical, more like classic Harbaugh ball. Kamani keeps being the hot hand, running with a strong yards per carry average, showing vision and patience. Hassan Haskins is working his way back too, ready to help on special teams and step in if this game turns into a trench war, where every carry is about punishment and attitude. Now picture the scenario. The Eagles' defense having to respect the run all night, Vidal punishing them inside, Hampton mixing in on a pitch count, fresh, explosive, breaking tackles in the second half when that defensive front is gassed. You take pressure off Justin Herbert, open up the play-action game, extend drives, control the clock, and dictate tempo on Monday Night Football. The real question is, will the Chargers have the guts to use Hampton in the right doses right away, or are they going to be ultra-conservative with his return? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this decision might end up being the turning point of the entire season. And there's another layer here. It's not just about yards. It's about the message to the locker room. Putting Hampton back on the field, even on a snap count, tells everyone that this offense won't live and die only by Herbert's arm, but by a run game that can punish, control, and wear down a defense mentally. If that clicks as early as this week, the conversation about this team's ceiling changes fast, and the rest of the NFL has to start paying attention. The Chargers' latest injury report only adds to that sense of a turning point. A list that looked endless earlier in the week has shrunk to just a handful of names. The first big headline coming out of practice was all about Justin Herbert. Yes, he's still listed as limited. Yes, he's got a plate and some screws in that non-throwing hand, but he's giving absolutely no indication that he plans to sit this one out. How many quarterbacks would deal with that kind of surgery and still be out there, adjusting their grip, pushing through the discomfort, and saying, "I'm going to be ready"? That's leadership. Just having Herbert on the field forces the Eagles to prepare for multiple versions of this offense. The rest of the report also brought a wave of relief. Only 2 players didn't go through a full practice, while everyone else got back to work at a stronger pace. Trey Pipkins, Jamari Salyer, Quentin John Stunn, Haskins, Hampton, all limited, but present. In December, with the team fighting to stay alive in the playoff picture, that's worth more than gold. One detail that still raises some concern is Tucker Fisk's status, which could force last-minute tweaks to blocking packages and those heavy sets with a fullback that Jim Harbaugh loves to use. But what really stood out was the staff's confidence about Hampton's return, while at the same time reinforcing the idea that Herbert is on track to play. That kind of energy is contagious. When your quarterback shows up to work after surgery, everybody else responds. And if Herbert does suit up, and every sign is pointing that way, just think about what it means for this offense to go into Monday Night Football with more healthy pieces, more options, and a collective mindset of, we're here to prove something. Suddenly, it's not just about surviving another week. It's about making noise and forcing the rest of the league to look at Los Angeles with real respect. There's something that flew under the radar for the casual fan, but for anyone who cares about how an offense is built, it might be the pivot point of this stretch run, the decision to start Jamari Salyer at left tackle against the Raiders. On the surface, it looks like a simple move, but it wasn't. It was calculated, risky, and necessary, and the result was real hope. This offensive line has been through it all year. Injuries, patchwork lineups, constant edge pressure ruining drives before they even start. All of that stripped this offense of its flow, shrunk the playbook, and put Herbert in some brutal situations. When you lose Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater, comfort in the pocket becomes a luxury. Then Salyer steps in on the blind side and changes the tone. He wasn't perfect, he wasn't some unstoppable wall, but he was solid. Herbert completed 15 of 20 passes in that game, and that is not a random stat. Quarterbacks play differently when they trust their blind side. But that leads straight into the question every fan has on their mind. Why did it take this long to put Salyer there? After weeks of struggling with replacement tackles who just couldn't consistently hold up against edge rushers, it almost feels unreal that the best option was on this roster the whole time. That opens the door for debate about evaluating your own personnel, coaching decisions, and overall philosophy. Maybe the staff didn't want to shuffle too much. Maybe they trusted the veterans a little too long. Maybe it was just timing. At this point, it doesn't really matter. What matters is now. Because if Salyer sustains this level of play over the next few weeks, the entire offense can finally breathe. Roots can develop deeper. The play-action game becomes dangerous again. Drives stop dying before they even cross midfield. And suddenly that wild card dream doesn't feel like a fantasy anymore. It feels like a realistic path, built not just on highlight plays but on a line that is finally showing signs of stability. And right when we're celebrating this unexpected answer at left tackle, another storyline pulls the emotion of the fan base in the opposite direction. Quentin Johnston, the wideout who opened the year on fire, stacking touchdowns, terrorizing defenses in the red zone, and making it look like the Chargers had finally found that young weapon who could shift the identity of the passing game. Then this week, a yellow jersey shows up and a giant question mark comes with it. When Johnston appeared in that yellow non-contact jersey, the panic was immediate. This is an offense that already leans heavily on its remaining playmakers, especially with Herbert out there playing through pain after hand surgery. The last thing this team needs is another major question at receiver. But then, a bit of relief. By Friday, Johnston shed the yellow, put the blue back on, and returned to normal practice activities. Still, there was that vague line from the staff, repeated by reporters. He's working through something. It's the kind of phrase that keeps the entire Bolt fam reading between the lines. Here's the key point. The Chargers need him out there, not just as a receiver, not just for his yardage totals, but because his presence changes how Herbert, and even Trey Lance in specific packages, can operate. Johnston doesn't have to be at 100% to impact this game. His massive catch radius gives his quarterback margin for error when the ball has to come out fast to avoid unnecessary hits. Down in the red zone, he turns into a lighthouse. Against a physical defense like Philadelphia's, every inch of advantage matters. The concern, of course, is his recent production drop-off. He started the season with 4 touchdowns in 4 games and looked unstoppable. Since then, he cooled off. He found the end zone again against the Raiders, but with only 23 receiving yards. Is that enough to tilt a defense? Is it enough to force the Eagles to adjust? That's the balance this team has to manage in a game that could define the rest of this run. What we do know is this. Johnston's status is going to be watched up until the final injury report. Any change there can alter expectations. If he can't go, you need a different game plan. You may have to lean more on shorter concepts, more conservative decisions, more help for Herbert. If he does play, even if he's clearly limited, he opens up a lane of hope this team simply cannot afford to waste. So after all of this, Bolt fam, it's pretty clear this week isn't just another chapter in the schedule. It's a crossroads. Hampton on the verge of coming back, Herbert leading through pain, Salyer bringing much-needed stability, and Johnston walking that thin line between concern and optimism. These pieces, these decisions, these tiny details can turn a single Monday Night Football performance into the spark for a real playoff push. But none of it matters without the emotion this fan base brings. So I want to know, do you believe this is the real turning point? Drop your take in the comments, smash that like button, and make sure you're subscribed so we can ride this entire journey together, one lightning strike at a time.